What makes the achievement of emotional sobriety so difficult is the habits we have, the patterns we have in our behavior, the habitual ways that we've come to think about things. We have to really become aware of those things in order to challenge them, because the consciousness that has created a lot of the problems in our life cannot solve it, cannot change things. So what happens is the first step is waking up.
Here we are. Wow, that was a good example of bondage of self. I'm not sure that represents addiction, but it certainly represents a dysfunction. And that's what we're here, whether you're in a 12-step program, whether you're an addict or not, you're very qualified to be in this gathering, because it's not about addiction and it's not about 12-step, although we're using that methodology to navigate our way into an experience with emotional sobriety. Emotional sobriety is just, and Declan said the key word really is balance. And another word I think he used was relationship. I see it threefold: of relationship with life itself. We could call it God or power or higher self. It really doesn't matter, but I like the word life with a capital L. Whatever that is, that life force, our relationship. That's my synonym for spirituality. Second, a relationship with myself and a relationship with other people. That's the balance, I think, that is the goal of the 12-step process, being delivered to step 10. Hear the words. I use my words pretty carefully. Being delivered, that is the grace. I can't get there from here, from wherever I started, but I can take a journey guided by somebody who has walked the path before me, using the methodology and roadmap of the Big Book and the 12-step process. I could not do that on my own. I did try. And at 4 years of sobriety, a man walked me through the first 9 steps, the program of recovery, into steps 10, 11, and 12, which is the program of living. The world of the spirit, according to Bill Wilson in the Big Book. We enter the world of the spirit, the 4th dimension. The material world has 3 dimensions: height, width, and depth, 3D. We're going into, by the promise of the Big Book, an invisible world, an immaterial world. It takes faith, meaning there's no feeling and there's no certitude. It's a choice, it's a decision on our part. We walk with our body into the process. We awaken the mind through the process of transformation. And we use our will to make those choices and those decisions, steps 2 and 3, the underlying assumptions of step 11, to construct a belief system and then act as if it's true. The promise of the 9th step is that we will have recovered. It doesn't say it on page 84. What it does say is we're placed in a position of neutrality. We have physical sobriety. We are placed, but hear the words again, that grace, we are delivered. This is not self-help. This is not good therapy or psychology in the traditional sense. It's very therapeutic and it's very healthy psychology, but it's not learning more so that I can do more and or do better. It's actually learning that I can't do this on my own. I'm not cured of my unmanageability. I have a daily reprieve, conditional. on the daily use of steps 10, 11, and 12. Last time I talked about the steps, I talked about step 10. It's a repeat of steps 4 through 9. Wash, rinse, repeat to keep the channel clear, so that I have an ability to own the disturbances in me and to drop the bars. When I don't know that I don't know, and I can't see that I don't see, even though the walls and the ceilings and the floor have been removed, if I'm unaware that I'm not a victim, that I'm actually responsible for my reaction to reality, I am asleep, dreaming that I'm awake. It's a line from Gurdjieff, a Russian philosopher. He said, most people are asleep, dreaming that they're awake. There I am, pathetic Herbie. 4 years sober, addiction's been removed, but I'm still a victim because that's what I believe I am. And I don't know and I can't see. But I enter into the world of emotional sobriety. Bill says this is our way of life. Step 10, keeping the channel clear through inventory on a spot check basis, filling the channel on a daily basis, twice a day, he says, actually, at night doing inventory again in case we missed it in step 10, and in the morning doing meditation, asking for guidance, and that's the subject of today. I'll probably spend about 15 more minutes talking about that. And then next time I'm asked, I will be talking about step 12, emptying the channel. I keep the lens of the lantern clean. I'm moving to a different metaphor, thinking I'm the lantern. I keep the lens of the lantern clean with step 10 on a daily basis because I have instincts that go awry on a daily basis. But on a daily basis, I fill that channel with light. I'm not the light, but I fill it with light, which is my relationship to life, my relationship to the light, my relationship to grace, the life force energy, God as I do not understand it, through a practice of prayer and meditation. And all things going well, the light will project through the clean lens onto the path that I've walked so others can walk the path. I'm the lantern that stands by the path to allow others to walk that path with a certain amount of dignity and grace to have their own experience. This way of living is my phrase for what Bill says is our way of life. I put it into a much more active verbiage, a way of living. He says we grow in understanding and effectiveness by turning from our self-centeredness to other-centeredness, other being a capital O, the relationship with life, the relationship with God, the relationship with power. Choose your words, choose your metaphor, choose your symbol. Doesn't make any difference. Any symbol or metaphor I use is incorrect and an understatement because I'm using finite symbols and words to represent something that's infinite. Even in mouthing it, I don't understand it. But I believe every word I'm saying is true without any evidence and without any feeling about it. And here's the key, I act as if it's true. Belief without action is fantasy, said the man who took me through the steps. We grow in understanding and effectiveness. The two things that make me specifically human is that I have a mind that understands and I have a will that makes free decisions to take actions. My understanding is dysfunctional and my actions are dysfunctional until, in fact, I have a transformation where my mind begins to see the truth of reality as reality is, steps 1 through 9 for sure. And my actions have been, I do what I don't want to do, and I don't do what I want to do. Unmanageability, the spiritual malady, the cancer of the soul, as Bill calls it. But once I have this transformation conversion experience, I am changed radically. That symbol on the PowerPoint is meant to symbolize a coin having two sides. Our relationship with other, God as I don't understand it. Step 11, to improve my consciousness. And a relationship with others to be helpful, to enlarge my spiritual life, to enlarge my capacity to be helpful. Sought. Right there, step 11 tells us it's not a passive process. The word meditation is very misunderstood in the Western culture and very misunderstood in the 12-step rooms because of the misunderstanding in the Western culture. The folks from the East, India, Japan, Tibet, etc., came over in the 50s and the 60s and started talking about meditation as what they practiced. English being their second language, they actually weren't that accurate. They may have looked in my dictionary, the Webster's Dictionary, which is not as clear as I think I'm going to make it tonight in terms of what is meditation. Meditation in the big book, step 11, corresponds to the Webster definition of meditation as directed thinking. The use of my mind to think, to reflect, to discern, to look at data and come to some conclusion. Most people think that meditation is no thinking, distance from the mind, emptiness. Well, no thinking, distance from the mind, and emptiness is what the Buddhists and the other folks from the East do, which they erroneously called meditation. It's really contemplation, a subject for a much different day and a much different venue, because I'm here to talk about step 11, which is about meditation. Meditation is the use of my mind to think. Contemplation is the use of my will to consent to be transformed, sitting in the presence of the light. Contemplare is the Latin derivative for contemplation. Contemplare means templare, temple space. Temple space, the house of the divine. Com meaning with or within. I sit in the temple space, in the house of the divine, in the presence of the presence, with the hope and intention of being transformed by the light. Contemplation. Meditation, much different. Look at the words. To improve my conscious contact with God as I understand God. You've heard me often say, God as I don't understand God. Either way, it works. And then the step 11 ends with a couple things that are overlooked many times. Praying, different than meditation. For knowledge of God's will, I have a mind that needs information. But information alone doesn't do it because I have free will. So I need the power to actually implement the information I have. As I said about unmanageability, the spiritual malady, I do what I don't want to do and I don't do what I want to do. I know better, but I don't do better. So the real challenge and question is, do I have a daily practice of consciousness? Notice I didn't say prayer. I didn't say meditation. I didn't say contemplation. Nope, I'm using a really generic safety net here. The broadest of words, consciousness, my awareness. Do I have a daily practice of meditation, of consciousness? Do I need power? Do I need consciousness? Do I need God? All questions I'm not going to answer here, but I'm raising the questions for you to raise the questions with yourself. If you don't have a daily practice of consciousness, then you're saying one of many things. One, I don't need power. Two, power is not available. Three, meditation isn't the practice that will access power. I can hear the mind's buzzing, the resistance, the disagreements. The man who took me through the steps was very cold, hard fact, objective, and loving. He told me the truth. He said, it doesn't matter what you believe, Herb, it does matter what you do, and what you do tells you what you believe. What you do tells you what you value. What you do tells you really what you want. What you do really tells you what your priorities are. Yes, that's very confrontational. I hope you're uncomfortable. As one of the speakers once said, and I love to quote these kind of deep wisdom things, I'm here to comfort the disturbed, but to disturb the comfortable. What is prayer? What is meditation? They're different. They still come under the big, broad, general heading of consciousness. And they're different. That's why Bill says prayer and meditation. Prayer, what is it? It's a conversation. It's not about words. People get so robotic and connected, attached to words, as if they have any inherent meaning. They don't. They have the meaning I give to them. Prayer is about my intention, to have a conversation, to build a relationship with whatever it is I believe I want to have a relationship with. Why do we do it? I don't pray to change God. That actually, with a little deeper reflection, doesn't make any sense, because whatever this reality is, it's infinite. It has no beginning. It has no end. This is not a religious concept. This is really a metaphysical approach, a philosophical approach to the reality of what we're trying to identify as the reality. It doesn't have a beginning, it doesn't have an end, and it has no ability to change because it is what it is. That was captured in the Hebrew scripture when one of the prophets asked the burning bush or whatever it was that he was standing in front of, "Give me your name." And he heard the voice, "I am who am. My nature is being itself. I is. Reality is reality," as Byron Katie would say, but only 100% of the time. I pray to form a relationship. What do I believe? Well, the silver bullet in the 12-step methodology is the magic. There's no orthodoxy. There's no theology. There's nothing that you need to believe. There's a few suggestions about what we recommend you do based on our experience. But your belief about life or energy or power or God is totally your decision. And as Gandhi said, and it is my experience, my belief changes as I do, as my needs do, as my consciousness changes, my understanding changes, and my relationship changes. The outcome is I improve my conscious contact by my daily practice of conversing. And you've heard it in the rooms, I'm sure, at least in the rooms that I've been in, regularly people mouth. I'm not sure they understand, but they mouth it. Prayer is when I'm talking to God. Meditation is when I'm listening to God. Well, let's take a look at this meditation business. Bill suggests upon retiring, we do inventory again, because I assume we may have been sloppy with our step 10 during the day when the game is on, and when we're a little more relaxed at night, we can do a radar sweep to see if there's any specks on the radar screen that need to be dealt with either tonight or tomorrow morning. But the morning practice is my favorite topic to discuss and my favorite time to spend. And it has been since 1988, when the man revealed to me what's in that big book on pages 85 to 88. 2.5 pages that are the best description of what meditation is and how to do it that I've ever come across before or after. Those 2.5 pages. I was in a monastery for 7 years, so that statement has some depth and weight. Those 2.5 pages, the best description of what meditation is and how to do it that I've ever read. The most simple, but I couldn't figure it out on my own. I needed a man to help me, a guide through the big book, a mechanic with the steps, who had had the experience. In the big book, it says, upon awakening, sometime in the morning, it's suggesting, we ask God to direct our thinking. That's a prayer. We're talking to God. This is what this man is saying to me. And it's a simple prayer, Herb. It goes like this: God, please direct my thinking. And then we begin thinking, says the big book is in its next instruction. Think about the 24 hours ahead. Consider your plans for the day. Bill doesn't like to be redundant, so I'm convinced that those are two different instructions. He doesn't tell us what he means, so I make something up. Think about the 24 hours ahead is about my day planner. What am I going to do today? And I review it in my imagination. I have my day planner. I'm old generation. I have it in writing. And I have it sometimes, and I even actually look at my day planner to see what I'm going to be doing that day and how does it fit into the week. Literally, the activities of the day or the week. Are all my activities in alignment with my understanding of healthy principles, emotional balance, spiritual sobriety? Consider your plans for the day. I give it a different twist. Who am I going to be today? And underneath that question is, who was I yesterday? Oh, I was inconsiderate yesterday. Today I'll be more considerate. Oh, yesterday I was really insensitive. Today I'll be more sensitive. Oh man, I was really distracted yesterday. Today, I'm going to try to be a little bit more mindful. Normally, the answer to the question is addressing the character defect du jour. But here's what's not in the big book, which this man said to me at this point, which was the key that unlocked the door to meditation and allowed me to be a daily meditator ever since middle of 1988, a daily meditator, missing less than a half a dozen days in those 30 plus years. He said, we ask God to direct our thinking. God, please direct my thinking. Then we begin thinking about our day and our role. And as we're thinking, we listen to our thinking as a direct answer to our prayer. Our thinking, our feelings, our sensations, our memories, our fantasies, our whatever awareness we have may just be God speaking to me. God's never spoken to me through my ears. But I have now learned to listen to the instincts, to the inspirations, to the intuitions, all words that represent different functions in me, different facets of my consciousness that reveal to me some guidance. That's the key word that the Oxford group used in their meditation practice as their purpose, to get guidance for the day, guidance for their life, guidance for other people. And that's where Bill got his training and got his understanding of meditation. I ask God to direct my thinking. I begin thinking, actively thinking about my purpose, my day, my problems, my solutions, my experience, whatever it is, my relationships. And I listen to my own thinking as the spiritual intervention from the power. If I have any doubt about it, I have a sponsor. I have a step guide to different people. I more recently, in the last 10, 20 years, rely on a spiritual director who's not actually in a 12-step program, but is deeply evolved in his spiritual consciousness as a sounding board. I have learned to trust my own thinking, but there are still times when I don't trust it completely. And then Bill suggests all day long, be aware, be awake, pause when agitated. This connects us right back to step 10, that spot check inventory, because when I'm agitated, I'm out of alignment behaviorally. I'm out of alignment. My emotions are giving me a signal. I'm out of alignment. Pay attention to that. And I course correct. Meditation is thinking and listening. And we don't do it to be in better physical health or emotional health or relationship health, although our biology, our psychology, our sociology will improve. The science is in and it's conclusive in all of those areas. But that's not step 11. Step 11 is theology. It's about my relationship with life. It's about my relationship with power. And then everything else gets taken care of, as Bill says in the big book. When we take care of our spiritual life, our physical and mental life takes care of themselves. That's a paraphrase of page 64. You hear sometimes the wee small voice. I have a different phrase up on top there. I read a credible translator who said the wee small voice is a nice phrase. You hear it all the time, but it's not a proper translation. I'm going to go off of this and come back to it in a minute, just so that somebody doesn't have their way with me. There we go. And he said that the actual translation is not wee small voice, but the tiny whispering sound. It's subtle, but it's different. There's no voice, there's no words, but there's a sound. That's why we attempt to get silent, so that we can listen to spiros, the breath in us. That's the Greek word spiros, means breath, which is the root of spirituality, spirit, the breath of God, the life force of my very life force. How do I do that? I listen to my instincts. How do I do that? I pay attention to my intuitions. I think and I listen to my thinking. How do I do that? I pay intention to my inspirations, the act of my will to get guidance. I listen, I think, and I get guidance. And as we practice it, we get better at discerning. That's a fancy word for thinking in the milieu of prayer, discernment. Improved consciousness is our invitation, a practice. Bill has no time frame in the big book or the 12 and 12, but most of the teachers I've encountered, both East and West, have recommended that you start someplace, but have a goal of 20 minutes as a minimum. And like the big book suggests in Bill's interpretation of step 11, let it be both in the morning and in the evening. I'm very faithful to the morning practice. I'm pretty superficial with regard to the evening practice. Sometimes I'll incorporate that in the morning. Well, what are we doing there? The man who was my spiritual guide said, you can't make a mistake other than not show up and leave early. Those are the only two mistakes that you can make in meditation. In my book on meditation that Hazelton asked me to write, thanks to Dr. Berger's introduction to Hazelton, I coined a phrase: if you can think, you can meditate. Totally countercultural and counter understanding in the majority of cases, because in fact, meditation is directed thinking, but most people don't interpret it that way because of the cultural belief that it's not about thinking, it's about silence. We need to be still so that we can hear our own thinking and translate that into some type of guidance. It's a method. It's not a technique. There's nothing robotic about it. It's sought. That's how step 11 begins. Sought, searching, very active consciousness. An action based on faith, not knowledge or feelings. Feelings are a trap in the spiritual life. And as addicts in a 12-step program, of course, we're very inclined toward feelings. We like to feel good and quick and big and always. And it's wonderful. Sometimes we'll feel the pink cloud and we'll feel the presence of God or whatever we interpret that to be. And we'll chase that. But if we chase the feeling, we will chase away the reality. That's my experience with it. This is an experience, not a task. Who is coming to save me? And you've heard Roger talk about and Dr. Berger talk about Nathaniel Brandon. He had a sign over his office. Nobody's coming. Oh my God, I love it. And I thought about it. I took it into meditation and I realized I'm the one I'm waiting for. Nobody's coming to save me. I need to become conscious. That's my human nature. Am I a spiritual being seeking a human experience or a human being seeking a spiritual experience? It's a great question. My answer is yes. Yes, I am a human being seeking a spiritual experience and a spiritual being seeking a human experience. I'm the one I am waiting for. Receiving the light, becoming a lantern, lighting the path for others, which will be our subject next time, lighting the path for others. I hope that was helpful.
Thank you, Herb. I'm going to bring in Roger and Tom, and you'll have to wait for me to unmute you because we got bombed. 1 sec. Yeah, for those who didn't experience that, there was an exercise in emotional sobriety, an opportunity to to practice some patience and tolerance. And so just to let everyone know, I've got video sharing turned off and the ability to unmute and chat turned off. If you need something, chat me directly. Otherwise, we'll just continue on here. And Roger and Tom, take it away.
Hey, Tom. Hey, Herb.
Hey.
Thank you. You want to start, Tom?
Dude, I'm high, I'm not on the drugs, on Herb. I guess I'm Herb, get it? It's like,
It's a hard H.
I am tripping. It's like I have, wow. You go if you don't mind, Roger. Let me see if I can put some thoughts together because I have so much experience.
No, I'm fine. I'm
okay.
fine.
Yeah.
So first of all, thank you, Herb. I spent a fair amount of time today reading through step 11 in your book, Spiritual Awakening. And wow. Again, I can't even begin to imagine the amount of thought and reflection that you have given to step 11, and as you acknowledged, at the beginning of your presentation, because it's a slow read for me in a very good way, right? Just as Bill's in the 12 and 12. Step 11 is a slow read for me, and he talks about doing the prayer of St. Francis and then saying it very slowly, right? And I like that idea, because when I say a prayer slowly, it really is very different experientially. Or when I read your chapter 11 or Bill's writings on step 11, it really changes my experience when I pray slowly or I read something slowly, because it allows me to absorb at deeper and deeper levels what I'm reading, right? And so I appreciated your presentation a lot, Herb. Thank you. I just want to add a couple of thoughts, tying it into self-esteem. You talk about consciousness a lot in what you just said about step 11, and both meditation and prayer, as Bill notes, are ways of improving our conscious contact with God as we understand him, right? And being aware, living more consciously, is to me the absolute centerpiece of self-esteem, as Brandon writes about it. I can choose to, as you say, make an effort to see what I don't see and make an effort to know what I don't know, or I can not be open to that at all. And for me, it's some days I'm open, some days I'm not. Some moments I'm open, some moments I'm not. But over time, I just think it's so important to be willing to just keep trying to understand life more and more deeply. And it's not easy. Understanding emotional sobriety, it's an incredibly complicated subject to me. So I will try to simplify it for myself by just trying to stay attuned to two things. If I, at the beginning of my day, can just try to think about the bigger picture, what I think of as the bigger picture of my day, how it fits into the needs of people I love and care about, how it fits into honoring my own healthy needs, because I think there can be a lot of confusion about this. Step 11 does not say ignore yourself, totally sacrifice yourself. It's not saying that at all. It's saying take good care of this life I've been given. Take good care of this body I've been given. So I get to include myself in those that I'm concerned with, but I also include them. And I try to include the bigger picture of life itself. So that's all I can say. It's a very humbling task to me to try to live more and more consciously with time, and try to get more and more connected to truth and to love. Those are the two themes I keep coming back to. I wrote a circle a long time ago, 10 years ago or so. It's just a circle that says love of truth of love of truth. So the way it reads is love of truth, truth of love, depending on which word you start reading the circle with. Because I was thinking about what I valued and what meant most to me. And those are the two things that kept coming back to me: love and truth. And every day, very imperfectly, of course, right? I try to keep attuning myself to those two values. So thanks again, Herb. And Tom, go ahead.
Yeah. Whoa. No kidding, I'm tripping. It's like it's because this step 11 is, even before Herb started talking, I have written in my 12 and 12, I have a note here from having written it previously. Step 11 is the step of experiential awareness.
Yeah.
You know, this is where words break down. Words are and I'm with I both in your book and also in what you just did, by the way, Herb, is the I echo what Roger says. It's like for you to be able to do what you're doing with words about this is just beautiful to me. Tears come to my eyes. It's like, because for me, I mean, this is the step of, this is about expansion. This is about where, you know, it's where my definition of self is expands, it grows. I live my life as a part of a bigger part of all that is. I've written so many things down as you're talking, but it's like I drifted back and thought about back in the old days. I was still drinking, but I never thought I would write a self-help book. But I was a writer. I never meant to be a therapist. I've said that here before. It's this fucking accident that I'm a therapist, a happy accident. I'm very glad. But I was going to write the great American novel or be a rich and famous poet. I didn't know there weren't any at the time, but it's well, Rod McEwen, I guess he was the only one. But I wrote this. It's a whole bunch of pages. I should go find it sometime. I just called it Conversations with My Gut. And when I became aware of there's another voice inside of me that basically, you know, was there and was wiser than I am, and it would be, and the only thing I would just share about that is I remember the look of the pages, because and anybody who's been in this group long enough knows that I'm plenty verbose. I have plenty, you know, I'm not a lack of words. So you'd look at the page and it would be Tom, and it would go on and on and on. It'd be me explaining something to this just say guide, you know, that I'm talking to in this dialogue. And I'm going, da, 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 da. And I remember one place in it where then the guide says, trust. It stops. It's like, and then I go, you know, bunch more. And then I remember the line is, well, that wouldn't be trust, would it? And that was, and I was just, I remember the feeling of when that happened to me. And when I reread that, and it's the idea that this is what it connects to me, is that place of that nonverbal, that awareness, that connection. And there's so much that I could sit here and write for the rest of the evening based on what I've written down here. But rather than do that, I'll honor the fact that it takes me to a place of beyond words. So I won't try to put a bunch of words to it. It's like, but thank you very much for the experience. And it's a beautiful experience. It's a beautiful reminder to me about, what, you know, at least as much as I know what this shit is all about. So thank you.
Well, and thank you so much, both of you. And the reminder here is the connection to emotional sobriety is when I'm conscious of I was reading Eric Fromm this morning, and he used the term ultimate concern.
Mhm.
This is the great reality. This is the power other than myself. This is the God of my not understanding. When I'm conscious of that and I'm working toward having a relationship, something magical happens to me. And I want to be a man of a decent human being who lives by principles. And I'm constantly sorting out, discerning what are those principles. One of my teachers says that inside us, in each of us, is our core of goodness. Well, you can't have thoughts like that and continue to have any type of low self-esteem.
Right. But also about what you said too, is about what is demonstrated. It's like, I mean, in the simplest terms, in one of my book about what love is just says, you know, if love is not demonstrated, it's not love. And it's like, and that goes for any of these other things. It's like, and that's the challenge, and that's the thing that makes me feel wonderful and totally uncomfortable simultaneously. You know, because that's the other thing about getting into this expansion place, because that's where judgment falls away. And I mean judgment, like not just in good or bad, but in terms of measurement. You know, am I feeling it? You know, because I was talking to a client today about, well, she's like, I'm not feeling good. It's like, you know, and I realize as an old man, I'm sometimes a little bit less patient with that than I used to be, because what I didn't say, because my screen did out a little bit and did But but my first thought was, what does that have to do with anything? It's like, this is about being aware of what is. It's like, and it is joyous and wonderful, but it's also sucks and it's dark and it's all these different things. And it's, yeah, I know that I'm high on this when I realize that as I talk, my words just go away and I just kind of drift away from the paragraph. So I'm happy. Peace, man. Far out.
I hear a lot of people criticize the 12 steps, that they're old-fashioned. I can understand that criticism. They were written back in 1935. Some people that are agnostic have difficulty with the word God used in the steps. For me, I look at the process that's involved. The forces that the 12 steps generate are so powerful that I think they're ageless. There's this interesting phenomena that happens when you work the steps. They create a charge and then a discharge. The first step, we're powerless. Our life has become unmanageable. It creates this charge. We're in big trouble and we don't know what to do. And then step 2 comes along and it says we have hope. That charge, that existential crisis that we have is resolved. What's happening here is parallel to life. We charge ourselves when we breathe in. When we exhale, we discharge. That's the rhythm of life. And the way I love to think about the 12 steps, it's helping us get connected to the rhythm of life so we can learn how to show up in a good way.